So I just checked out this new Colin Kaepernick documentary, and I have to say, I'm very impressed. I have a lot to talk about, so let's jump into that review right now. What's up, folks, and welcome back to the channel today for another review. And today we're going to be reviewing the new documentary Kaepernick in America, which made its world premiere at this year's Tribeca Film Festival 2022. Now, as I say countless times in documentaries, what can you show me new? What can you tell me new? And in this case, especially with somebody like Colin Kaepernick, who everybody's truly familiar with, whether his NFL career or his work in activism, you know, everybody knows who he is, and all of what he's been doing has been highly publicized all throughout the media. So this was an interesting one, because when I first saw it, I said, well, I know there's nothing I don't know about this, because everything's everywhere. You know, we've been seeing it for years, ever since he's been drafted in NFL 2011. And even before that, if you follow his college career, which he had a fantastic college career, but you know, from the moment he was drafted to the NFL all the way into where he, I would say, sacrificed all of his success in order to take a strong stance in activism against social injustice in America. So yes, it's all there. We're fully aware of his words and what he stands for. But there was still a lot of unique things in this documentary. First, I want to say that this documentary was done very well. I thought the cinematography, the production, the folks of interest within the interviews, I thought the selection, the pacing, everything was done really well. And between the footage of, you know, his career, his life growing up, you know, his hometown from Tribeca, California, from intertwining certain media clips involved, the other video footage of police brutality, everything. I thought the meshing and the selection of the video used really worked and fleshed together, very cohesive. Sometimes you can like have footage just because it's footage, and it kind of, to me, I think it just kind of throw things off, but I thought everything was like pretty solid in this. So yeah, but beyond that, like I said, you're going from the draft, you're going about his family, getting a little background about his family. If you don't know, he's transracial adopted. So, you know, being a black or mixed kid adopted into a white family. And, you know, I bring that up because when you talk about the folks who were a part of the interviews in this documentary, you have NFL coaches, you have other activists, you have an adoption expert, you have reporters. So you have a bunch of folks who just truly, as I say, people of interest, but yet very important people of interest. So I thought the selection of these folks who knew him since day one, his coach that drafted him, other folks who can relate to his walks of activism, you know, even going to Steve Weiss, who was the one to break the story about him kneeling, you know, all of that. So, you know, good selection of folks, and very unique and interesting takes on everything. And I have to say, the biggest one for me was Nate Boyer, who I had no clue was the person who suggested him to kneel. And you know, Steve was an ex-NFL player. He's an actor now. He's ex-military. So, you know, and they have a relationship with one another. And considering the backlash that he got from kneeling, considering that Nate is ex-military, was kind of like a but I have to tell you, the way how he explains why kneeling was logically the right stance on protesting is brilliant. It might be the biggest, most the part of this documentary that I took away from amongst everything else. Like, hearing how he was able to explain why he felt this was the right, you know, form of protesting for Colin, I thought was just truly brilliant. So I won't take that. I won't spoil that for you. You should watch the documentary so you can hear how he talks about them to be in, and why he suggested kneeling was better than sitting or anything else. So, but yeah, you know, in terms of the footage and whatnot, you know, you got moments from the biggest moments of throughout his career. A lot of the moments from his walks and movements and speeches in activism. You also got the media and their reaction throughout all of this, the negative reactions, the reactions where they now want to be pro Colin, you know, all of that. All all intertwined with just countless moments of social injustice of black people and people of color throughout this. So like, pretty much explaining the climax and the dynamic of America today. So it helps you understand why a protest that was so wasn't violent, wasn't hurting anybody, was an important thing to bring awareness to something that's continuously happening. And you see this journey of everything he's been through to bring awareness, and much like Dave Chappelle explained in this, is basically how Cap sacrificed his success for everybody to see the vision. He says like, hey, anytime somebody take a stance for anybody else, they get beat down, and the person they stood up for just watches. And that's such a strong but true statement. You know what I mean? I thought that Steve Wash viewpoint on Colin was also pretty on point as well too, because for all the research that Steve was doing, he also researched that, all the research that Colin was doing in terms of policing and black history. So like, he didn't just unconsciously say like, oh, I'm just going to just start a protest just for shits and giggles. You understand that like, he took his time to really understand what was happening for generations, and how he felt he needed to make a change, and how he felt that this kneeling will bring awareness to everybody in terms of what's happening in terms of the social injustice and so on. So and kneeling, how it just became a symbol, a powerful symbol, and how symbols are, and the power of symbols, and how that could just withstand time and generations. So they also talked about the NFL blackballing him, but we all knew what that was, and how that was just a signal to send throughout all the other players in the NFL and whatnot. Another thing I didn't know was about another player that also had a similar form of protesting, in Muhammad Abdul-Rauf back in 1996 in the NBA, which I had no clue about, but it was interesting that he also suffered the same result that Colin sort of did in terms of being blackballed, and it wasn't really, it started conversation, it opened eyes. You could almost imagine that it influenced Colin to some extent, but like how this has just been an issue going on for years. When I say issue, not the protesting, but what people are protesting about has been an issue for generations. And so you take a look at that being in 1996, and then you go to Colin Kaepernick back in 2016, and basically which became his year of awakening across everything that was happening in America. So it just shows you that like, these folks out here are looking for change. We're tired of the social injustice, and Colin Kaepernick, who is a icon at this point for everything he's done and what he stands for. So, as much as, folks, praises his NFL career and for everything he's done and all the success that he's had, the continued work and activism is truly who he is. And this documentary just shows you that, like, it's his big passion about being on the field. This was something that just meant a lot to him as well, too. And he still wants to play on the NFL, but he's still going to continue to fight. And this was just the story and the journey of that. So, but check it out. It's totally a good documentary, worth watching. It was an easy watch in terms of timing. Like I said, the pacing was really good. It's 82 minutes. Again, it's available currently at Tribeca, but will be available for you all, I think, in a couple of days. So keep an eye out for it. But Kaepernick in America, jump in the comments when you check it out. And as always, stay tuned for more reviews very soon.